All right, I'm going to get started today. I'm going to record this for the online and remote students. Um, we're doing review this week, so no new material, and then we're preparing for the exam that's coming up, the midterm exam for that. So um, let's just talk a little bit about the logistics of that. Um, so in-class students will have to take the exam in person here on Friday. So Friday we'll come here and we'll take the exam in the lab. So you have to be in the lab for it to count. Online students can won't have to come to class because they're online. So if you're a distance student, you can take it remotely. And you have all weekend. We'll open it up Friday at class time at 11:45, and then you will have until Sunday night to do the exam if you're an online student. If you're an in-class student, do not pretend to be an online student. You will get 0 points. I will go in there and change it so you do not pass. So make sure you come to class on Friday. I'm speaking to a room of nearly empty people here, unfortunately. So hopefully someone will watch this. We use what's called the Respondus lockdown browser. So it's a special browser that when you run it, it will lock your screen up so that you can't do other things, can't open up other windows and stuff like that here. And we'll use it. It's installed in the lab, and we'll just run it. You shouldn't have to do anything, assuming you're using a lab computer. If you are taking it at home, your online students, and if you haven't had an exam like this, you should probably practice or take some time out. There's a sample exam here that you can take to try it out and do it. I'll just warn you, although we're using this lockdown browser, I also have to ask you, for the online students, to obey and, our code of ethics. And this is a closed book exam. You're not allowed to search the internet. And I know having the browser lockdown is not going to help you. I mean, even I have a little spot on my home computer where I set my phone when I'm on these boring Zoom calls, not to students, but I have some other meetings that I have to go to and webinars. And so I have a spot where I can set my phone and I can browse the internet, even though my main screen is busy with Zoom there. So I know you can easily get around this, but again, remember our code of conduct, and we expect you to do this. Also, we're not so picky about if you turn in AI generated work on an assignment, you can comment that. If you turn in AI generated work on the exam, and I can tell that, that is a significant issue for that. So, okay, so any questions about the logistics of the exam? Those of you who are here just have to show up on Friday and you can take the exam. Let's talk a little bit about the exam topics here. Here, let's see. Yeah. As far as the exam goes, you won't have to write too much code for the exam. There will be two short coding questions, so maybe think writing, somewhere between 3 and 6 lines of code probably at this point. Most of them are multiple choice questions, short answer questions, where I don't want you to get stuck on coding, especially when you don't have your full resources that you're used to coding with there. So that's the layout of the exam. 20 short answer, multiple choice or short answer questions, and then 2 relatively short coding questions. The midterm topics are here for this. So again, you might want to look through this. These kind of topics are good things if you're using AI to help you review. You can feed these topics into an AI and say, help me review this, or help me, I'm in intro Java class we're having, and this is what we're doing. So feel free as you're studying to use AI at that point. That's a good time to use AI for this. The extra credit, the practice problems, we've been looking at practice problems every Friday. I didn't mention it too much before this, but you can get extra credit now if you do the practice problems. It's a good time to go back and do some of the practice problems here. Today and Wednesday, I'll spend about a half hour doing some review, and then the other half hour, I'll let you work on your own review. If you want to do a practice problem or something like that, you can there. So feel free. You can, what you do is you can submit this up to 5 times there. This is actually from the end of the class, so you probably only want to do the units we've done so far here. So you don't want to do like unit 10, 9 and 10. We haven't done those yet. So, and again, you can submit this 5 times before the end of class in December there. So you don't have to certainly, you'll have time before the final to go back and do some of these practice problems too. So I'm just going to go into this midterm review and walk through some of this stuff. So again, this is the time. Wow, I'm not a big fan of exams in my classes. In fact, most of my upper division class, I don't have exams. We do work and projects and stuff like that. But when you're learning this, I think it's very helpful to stop periodically and review and catch up. And there's a fair amount of learning theory that talks about ways to better learn this a little deeper. And one of the things is this sort of reflection stuff to go back and look. And so that's what we're doing here. So let's just start unit 1. So again, we are looking at this print and print line. And again, I like to kind of do review by coding and writing code. Not everyone, that doesn't help everyone, but I like that. So I like to run NetBeans and just have a spot where I can try out different code as I'm thinking of it and see how it works here. So I'm going to just do a little new project here. And again, I'm going to remind myself how to print here. This should be old school. We've hopefully typed system.out.println.error system.out println enough. And I should be familiar with, again, the difference between print and print line. So I know I can do that, but I can also do, right, I can do one print and then one print line, and then it'll put the words together. So both of these things will say hello world all in one line. I can click the run button if I will. Now I want to start thinking about how to print out variables. So in unit 2, we started talking about variables, their variable names here. So again, which of these variable names are legal here? So again, you can try these out over here. You know, sometimes that will help remind you. So if I say string first name, now it underlines it, but it doesn't, it just puts it, it says it's neither read nor written there. So that's fine. It's not saying it's an illegal variable name there. So I can declare a variable, I can set a variable. I can print out a variable. I'm going to print it out with some text so I can remind myself how to do that. So what do I say? I say, you know, my name is, and then Java, I think I do a plus first name. So I can run this and print off a variable name. And then there are other things like, what if I put it all in caps? Will that work? If I write a number in it, if I put a plus in it. So some of these will work, some of these won't work, right? So if I try first plus name, that doesn't work. But if I do first underscore name, that actually does work. I have to just make sure I'm using that throughout here. So one way I can do that is when I'm doing this, I can say refactor, rename, and try out some different names here. So I can try all uppercase. That'll work. I just can't have a space, right, in your name. You can't have a plus or a minus. Can you have a minus, you ask? And so again, one of the reasons for this is that can the computer tell this from something else? So if you have a variable named first and another one named name, if you say first minus name, it won't work. In fact, it'll tell you right down here, first name is not a valid Java identifier for this. So, but I could do first underscore name would work. So we've been doing strings. We know how to do integers and doubles, right? So we have to remember how to do that. Right, you can say int heart rate equals 72 or double. Price equals 65.45. So far, we've just been using lowercase int and lowercase double here. There is an uppercase version of it, but we haven't talked about those. So suggest for the exam, you should probably be just using those lowercase ones. I just mentioned it because sometimes AI will jump into using uppercase ones. Uppercase ones just are more advanced. They're what like string. They're an object, and you can do more conversions and stuff with them there. But right now we're just using the basic ones here. I won't take off points if you use the uppercase doubles and ints because again, it's hard for me. Either one, and sometimes again, it just when you select something, it'll fill those in. So if I look back here, write code, declare a person's heart rate, yep. Store, write code, ask the user to enter their age and read it into a variable named age. Assume this is it. So again, we haven't talked about scanners yet. So again, we have our scanner here. I'm going to actually put it down here. So if we're going to do input, we have to declare our scanner, and then we can read that in. So let's say I have my heart rate. I can say I should prompt them. Enter your heart rate. I think I said age in this, but I already have a heart rate variable, so I'm just going to use that. And then how do I read that in? Heart rate is an int in this case, so I say heart rate equals input dot next, and I have some options: next int, next line, next whatever. So I'm going to say next int, read in the next int. And that'll read in that variable, and I can do calculations with that or print it out. Well, that stuff seems really pretty familiar, right? How to read in a variable, how to print out a variable there, how to do calculations. I think we learned all the operations, plus, multiply there. Some things to watch are if we are doing some division. So if we want to say, if I print out, oops, I'm going to say, let's remember that integers and division are kind of weird here, because if we if I print off, can I do a plus comma there? Let's if I print out the heart rate divided by 10, what is that going to do? So if I enter a heart rate of 333 and then it divides by 10, it'll just say 33. It'll print it off as an integer there. It'll not say 33.3 here. So if I have division, so multiplication, subtraction, addition are all normal, and types really don't matter too much with those. But division, if I'm taking an integer divided by an integer here, it's going to make it an integer. Now, if I make one of those a double and I just make this a decimal, a double, now if I run it, it will do decimal division, right? So if I do 33, it'll tell me, it'll give it to me as a decimal. So again, it only gives you a problem if both parts of a division are integer. And again, with that is the other operator, the mod, and that is a percent. There, it kind of looks like a division sign. I always thought that's why I think they use that. So if I say 333 divided by 10 would be 33.3. And so the remainder is the 3. This is the remainder here is that. So that mod is the remainder for this. So those are probably new to most students. So, right. Booleans are also kind of new. So we can have Boolean variables. Give it some name. That's heart risk. False. So let's say your heart rate is really high and we want to change that. We can do things like, we can say if your heart rate is greater than, let's say your heart beating more than 200 beats per minute, then we can say has heart risk equals true. So we can set this variable to, it's a Boolean variable, we can set to false and true there. And we can also just check on it. We can say if has heart risk, if that equals true, then we can say you should see a doctor at some point. You should go to the hospital. So now if we run this, we enter a really large heart rate here, 240. It checks and says you should go to the hospital. So. This is how people often, when they're first learning Booleans, you start using them like that. You just say, like, if the heart rate is greater than 200, then uh heart risk is true. So if, but once you get to use these more, you'll kind of do some shortcuts. So basically you're saying is, if this is true, set this to true. Well, you can do this all in one line. You can just say has heart rate equals this. You don't have to say that. Has heart rate equals, and then a Boolean expression like this. And so if this is true, it'll be true. If this is false, it'll be false. Similar here, we're saying if has heart risk is true, if that statement is true, well, you don't ever have to ask if something is true in an if then. If it is true, it is true. I mean, it's hard to even explain that. Well, you can just say if has heart risk. If that is true, then the statement will work. So you can just shorten it a little bit. And again, yeah, at first when you're getting used to Booleans, I think it's helpful to write out longer things like this. But once you start using them more, you can start hopefully working with them a little better. So. Okay, so yeah, here we do our, what does this code display for this? And start talking about integers. So this isn't bad because this is an evil division, but then if we change this to odd number, we can change that. So you can try that out and then try to change this from 16 to 15 or 17 and see what if you can predict what it's going to print if this is 17 or 15 also. Let's see. Let's just do a couple more minutes of this and then we'll let you work. So we already started talking about some Booleans and we already did some if-thens here. So if-then statements here. We did mention, we haven't talked too much about final. So let's just mention final. If you're declaring a value that like a constant that you never want to change and you want to do it, we put final. So rather than saying, like, let's say we say int max heart rate equals 200. Later on, we could accidentally change this if we weren't paying attention here. And again, sometimes when we're doing it in a thing, we might accidentally change in our code with a mistake. So what we'll do is we'll say final int max heart rate, and that's it. Now with variables like this, we often make them, if they're constants, we often, just to denote this, we put them all in uppercase. And then we can use those in our code. So we can say, yeah, if the heart rate is greater than the maximum heart rate then we can do something. So that's what final does. Write code to print off the smaller of two variables, int num A, num B. So again, you should all write an if-then statement to print out which one's smaller. What does the following code display here? So, so if I just grab that, I don't have age declared anywhere, so let's, I can just set age. And then based on this, I can do it, or I could ask the user to enter their age here and do something with that. So you can play with this. But again, if and then else. So you should certainly be able to manage a simple if else. How about we chain these together? Yeah, we looked at if the age is greater than 17, else if. So how do we add an else if and how those work for this? The other thing is to more complicate operators. So like here, we're talking about if the age is greater than 12 and the age is less than 14, what is that going to print off? So if we do that, so let's say you are 23 here, and then what is so age is greater than 12, it's 23. So does it print welcome to middle school? No, because we have this and. So both and means both this and this have to be true, right? They both have to be true for the whole thing to be true. And this part isn't true. Age is less than or equal to 14, age is 23. That's false. So the whole statement is false. So we should see this. Sorry, you're not in middle school. Oops, I have to enter a heart rate. Sorry, you're not in middle school. Okay, I'm going to let you work on this one. Consider going through some of these review questions or work on some of the practice problems and see how that goes. I'll wander around and see if you need help with anything. Sound good?